Yes, people, welcome to Man Knows Football. You are here with myself, Guni, and Matisse for yet another. This is the third preview that I've done on the channel for Real Madrid. Well, Chelsea versus Real Madrid. Done one with Carefree Lewis, and then yesterday I done one with Eunice, and I couldn't do one without Matisse. Matisse, how you doing, my bro?
Very good, very good. It feels like a lot of build up for this game, isn't it? For everyone, like it's a proper big hitter. It's a proper big blockbuster event. So yeah, like the build up is gonna be mad right now. Everybody's doing bare build up, and it's like I was just speaking to Elizabeth yesterday on her channel as well, like bare build up, interviewing Real Madrid fans and stuff. So everybody's doing bare build up, and it's just this game. This the nerves now, innit? It's starting to come because it's a massive game. We're at home. We've got to take care of business. We can't even afford to draw this game. I can't lie.
No, absolutely. And you know what? I'm under extra pressure. I'm gonna do a watch along, and Troops wanted to be there. He wanted front row seats to see the reaction, so that's only gonna make it worse. I'll be doing that later on the channel. But this is definitely, we have to win this game, and in my mind, I feel that we've got to win it by at least 2 goals to have that cushion at the Bernabeu. Because look, yes, we done well last year when we went to Spain and we beat them, but it wasn't at the Bernabeu and there was no fans. It's going to be a completely different test. And another thing as well, a player who was massively key in both legs, Ben Chilwell, is not going to be available. So the left side is something that obviously we're going to discuss throughout this stream. And also, I've asked Lewis and I asked Eunice about their preferred pivot, because there's no doubt about it. We're not gonna go with a back 4. That's just asking for trouble. For trouble. Anybody with 2 eyes can see that. So we're gonna go with the back 5. I think the rest of the team really picks itself. It's just that midfield pivot where there seems to be a discussion. But let's get into the game off the back of a 4-1 humiliating defeat against Brentford. When you look at history and you look at the timing of it, for me, it's just a blip. It happens this time last year, roughly. We got slapped 5-2 by West Brom. And when you look at it, for me, I've said it several times, it was a tactical shit show from Thomas Tuchel. But I still love the man. I still think he is the right man to push Chelsea forward. But it was just one of those days, isn't it? Lack of respect paid to Brentford, also off the back of internationals. But Matisse, how do you feel going into this game?
I'm still confident. The game at the weekend hasn't really changed anything for me in terms of confidence. I think the one thing I will say is that you're right. That left-hand side is significantly weaker. I think Alonso or Malang Sarr, no matter who starts, preferably Sarr in the back 4 and Alonso at the wing-back position, both of them don't fill me with confidence, and both of them I don't trust to deal with situations when they arise. Now, luckily for us is that Real Madrid's right-hand side is weaker than their left, with Carvajal and maybe Asensio on that side. Hazard's out, Isco don't really play games, and Bale definitely ain't touching the pitch. So their right-hand side is their weak side, and our left-hand side is our weak side in terms of defense. So that balances out nicely, and that is good. Now, in terms of the overall composition, I think at some point we'll get done up and twist up over there, but for this game, it should be okay. But yeah, overall confidence is still the same, because look, Brentford was a flash in the pan. It was an absolute calam. You know what I'm saying? The tactics were poor. Loftus-Cheek as the holding midfielder in a 3-man midfield is just an absolute no-no.
Absurd, isn't it?
Absurd, bro. It's absurd. It's like, I know we don't have depth in this position, and I know we don't have the rotation necessary in terms of the sixes. We know the midfield is unbalanced. It's clear as day. But you got to think of something better than Loftus-Cheek as the lone sitting midfielder, because that definitely ain't the way forward.
It was even more baffling at the fact that he partnered him up with Kante. Now, we know, like, primarily he's not a DM, but still, when you're going to look at defensive instinct and then closing off, like, the counter-attacks, it's naturally N'Golo Kante. So that's how you know it was just a shit show. But go on.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then, he plays Werner as well, and Werner was god-awful for God knows how long, and he still managed to find a way onto the pitch, especially in a game like that, so technically limited, no space in behind, really, like... If I was to name and go through all of Werner's defects as a footballer and what he's not able to do, we'd be here all day. Do you know what I'm saying? It's actually mad when you really think about how many things he cannot do on the pitch or what he cannot give you. It's long. So yeah, he made some questionable team selection choices, and I think it's weird because maybe it had Real Madrid in mind in a sense, but the best way to go into Real Madrid is a win. But listen, my confidence is still calm. I'm trying to see a completely different team, of course. I'm sure we'll get into that in a bit. And it's Real Madrid. It's under the lights at Stamford Bridge. The atmosphere was poor as well on Saturday. It was said by Tuchel. I don't expect that to happen again tonight. So everything is different. The formation, the players, and the atmosphere, everything will be different. So, and it's a massive occasion. And we're great. We're a great knockout team, so we usually rise to that anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, just like you said, I was about to say the same thing. Usually in games like this, we don't usually let Tuchel down. They don't usually let us down. We seem to turn up in these big games. So I'm in a similar situation to you. Brentford, again, it's just a blip, flash in the pan. We just put that behind us. The back five today is going to give us a lot more confidence. I think with the midfield pivot as well, whichever one we choose, out of the three that are in question, I still think we'll be all right. It's just a matter of tactical preference, obviously. But do you know what? Let's jump into that because that's a bit of a conversation in itself. Let's start with that midfield pivot. I'm very, very torn between Kante and Jorginho, Kovacic and Kante. I'm torn between all three selections, actually. I don't know which one would be best because you see, but my thing is that there's a niggling feeling in the back of my mind that Jorginho is going to be key in this because even when we played them last season, especially at the Bridge, the way he picked up Modric in them half spaces and his just overall awareness in that game, and then the controlling of the tempo and then transitioning a lot from counters, because that's what we had to do. Real Madrid had 67% possession that night, but we were fine with it. We still controlled it. We still hit them with counters. They were operating with the wide centre backs, which just played into our hands. Mason Mount loved it. Just pressed heavy up top. But talk to me. Who would be your ideal pairing in that pivot?
It's so tough, bro, because if I'm to analyze what I watched against Real Madrid for Real Madrid against PSG in both games, 75% of that game they were dominated in midfield. Their midfield was so poor. They couldn't keep up. They were overran, dominated physically. And technically as well, Verratti was pulling the strings for like I said, 75% of that tie. It was only in the second half of the second leg when Camavinga came on, Kroos came off, who should never have started because he was a doubt anyway. They unleashed Modric, and that's when they really started to pull the strings, and Modric was incredible. But they are susceptible. They are there to be got at. And I think on the basis of last season as well, we dominated the midfield. That's where the story started for us is, Kante, Jorginho, Mason Mount dropping in from the front three, matching them 3v3 in midfield, and just completely dominating them on and off the ball. So I think for me, when I'm predicting their midfield, I think Kroos, Modric, and Casemiro will start. If Carlo was to throw a curveball and include a Camavinga or Valverde, then I would bring in Kovacic for the extra mobility. But because I don't expect to see those two younger players, I expect to see the aging midfield, I would put Jorginho next to Kante for the sheer fact that I think we're going to need someone who can unlock the door of the pass and just control the tempo. And he's the only sitter. He's the only sitter in the team. We speak about midfield imbalance. The only thing that Kova and Kante, it works sometimes, but we can't sit here and pretend like it works every time.
Facts.
Because it doesn't. Facts. Like people will absolutely scream and cry out for this pivot, but it doesn't always work. And the reason why it doesn't always work is because these two are not natural sitters. They both want to move forward. That's when they're best, when they're both carrying the ball forward. So I'm not really trying to see a gap in between the defense and the midfield, and that does worry me, especially with Modric. So we don't need pace. We need intelligence.
Yeah, you made a good point there, because as well, you see, both on their day, we can't afford them to have poor ball retention as well, because both of them on their day, when they have poor games, they lose possession like this. Can't afford that against Real Madrid. But go on.
Yeah. Apparently Valverde could be playing on the right, but I'm guessing that's on the right hand side of midfield, not in the hub of the team. But it all depends on the lineup. Like I said, there's two variations here. If you go with potentially a younger guy in midfield, then I'd maybe throw Kova in there. If not, and it's the traditional 3-man midfield, then I'd go Jorginho, Kante. And that's no slight on Kova, because Kova, I've been singing his praises this season. He's been the best midfielder.
It's a tactical decision, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tactical, yeah. It's definitely tactical. And it was tactical when I left out Jorginho personally in my head for my previews for versus Palmeiras and Liverpool as well. Yeah. For the Club World Cup and the Carabao Cup as well. It just depends tactically how we got it set up. But I just think Jorginho in this game, he's been up and down recently. Him and Kante both up and down, bro. Like 1 minute Jorginho's giving you a game-winning assist against Newcastle. Next minute he's giving you a mistake. Kante's winning the ball back well, but then he's giving it away. Something like both of them have dropped off a bit. And when I said it, and I said they both dropped off a bit, and maybe people say I'll take it too far because I said we shouldn't really look to extend their deals. That was when Roman was in charge. Now I'm not really sure what we do transfers wise until we get the new owner. But their influence over the course of an entire season is clear as day. It's clearly dropped off. Like, when was the last time Kante or Jorginho was in shouts for Player of the Year? It hasn't happened recently. It's been Kova. Kova won it under Frank. Kova's been better this year, but I'd say I'll give it to Silva. Like, it's very clear that midfield is not, over the course of a whole season, is not controlling and doing everything that it needs to do on and off the ball. Whereas Kova, that brother's been shining.
Yeah, facts. Another tactical decision in this game. Now, this has drawn a bit of a discussion as well in our fan base, is Mason Mount being included in this, because obviously his form this season, he hasn't been at his best. But again, I say this is a tactical one because of how key he was again last season in, dropping back to form that midfield three in that defensive phase, or, when Real Madrid were trying to play out from the back, he'd just come out from that midfield three, go to the original, make it the original front three, just press on Militao that was on that right side, operating as that wide centre back and quite often getting success. And that was forcing Luka Modric back and Toni Kroos back as well. They were taking turns going deep because there was nobody there that could make that was a playmaker from deep, which is why they had to operate from back there. So for me, it quite baffles me that quite a few of the fan base are saying, oh, Mason's form, he shouldn't be anywhere near the pitch or whatever. One thing that Mason Mount does is he busts a gut for the shirt, and why I'm applying that on this, because I'm not a passion merchant, but that does actually work well in the terms of counter pressing. See what I mean? And Mason Mount leads that counter press very, very well, and it's going to be key. So that's why I feel that he's going to be another name that should be first on that team sheet. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, Matisse.
I agree. Look, for me, it's between Mason and Ziyech. And even though Mason, for me, his overall influence in the team has dropped off, and his overall performance has dropped off. I know people will look at statistics, but I'd be a hypocrite to just say GA is enough and it's better, so he must be better, because that's why I criticized Bruno Fernandes for the entirety of his Man United career. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite on that. Like, he has dropped off overall in terms of his general influence and performance, but that's fine because, he's Player of the Year last year. He gets that credit in the bank, and he's still young and developing. So exactly. If Mason's drop off is a massive problem for people, then God knows what some of the other players that we've had in their attack dropping off is looking like. Do you know what I'm saying? So if Mason's not playing well, then there needs to be someone else to step up and take his place in the team and put him on the bench. That's how I see it. But for this game, tactically, he's key. He played in all the big games last year. And this year, he's huge for us in terms of that. And even though I wasn't impressed, of course, with his performance against Brentford, I agree with you tactically. To match them 3v3, there's no better player that we have. There's no other alternative that we have that can match midfield 3v3 versus Real Madrid and give us that guarantee that we're going to be in a shape off the ball. Now, that I've been saying that for years, right? Because Ziyech can do it, but not to the level where I'm getting guarantees.
Yeah, that's what I said to you.
Now, the guy that can do it, that's out on loan, that will be coming home this summer is Conor Gallagher. And this is why I keep saying Conor Gallagher will compete with Mason, in my opinion, for that spot. He could compete for Kante's spot a little bit as well. But because Connor's got goals to his game,
he's going to be more advanced.
Yeah, you'd want him more advanced, surely. Do you know what I mean? That's where he's been performing for Palace this season. I know for West Brom he was a bit deeper, and we know he can get amongst it in the pivot, but You want to, for me, you got to unleash Gallagher and let him get his goals. Do you know what I'm saying? He's got such good striking technique outside the box. So, and the work rate, people are calling him the English Kante. So we're talking about real competition for Mason Mount next season, and it will probably help. And I'm not worried. Like, most people try and shuffle them both into the same team. I'm not about that life. You got cover. You've got to sign a new DM, in my opinion.
100%.
You've got you need balance, and I think Mason and Gallagher, in some ways they're similar, in some ways they're different. But if they're both competing for one spot for not all the time, but for some of the season, that's not a problem. That's good.
It's healthy competition.
It's going to get the best out of both of them. Yeah, 100%. So we've got a lot of games. How many times we talk about how many competitions we got to play in, and people are getting overplayed and not rested. So I think it's very healthy competition next season. And I think they could both do a similar role tactically for Tuchel. And I think that's why he likes Conor Gallagher so much, because the man is covering serious ground. And it's not like as if he's not sound technically. Like, you can cover ground like Werner, but not be sound technically. This guy technically is pretty sound. Controls the ball properly, puts the pass, good link up, good striking technique. So, yeah, man, he's and you know what? I think his passing range could even go up another gear. I think he just needs to be in a team that's definitely ball dominant, so we can see if he can do it. But I wouldn't be surprised if he can, fam. It's Cobham.
No, facts. My concern about Conor Gallagher playing in that pivot is when, like, we're under pressure in our final third, is that sometimes he does lose the ball in dangerous positions or gives away fouls in dangerous positions just due to indecisiveness. But that's why I'm really advocating for him to be used in more of an advanced role, because you're playing to his strengths as well. Let's have it right.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And like, it's like you quite rightly said, if he's got a competent midfielder behind him of that level of quality, then it's less work that he has to do going back. If he has to do it, he will do it. But going forward, focusing on his job, you get me, his threat from outside the box, just his all-round play is just gonna be priceless for Chelsea, to be honest. But I want to go back to the point of the 2-goal margin that I feel that we need to really, that's going to give me confidence to progress into the semi-final. Now, look, we can keep a clean sheet against Real Madrid. I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility. And then when we do start Thiago Silva, Rudiger and Christensen, we don't really concede goals. So the possibility is there, but you can never really be overconfident against a team like Real Madrid. You know, you got Vinicius in the form that he's in. Certainly has improved by leaps and bounds compared to last season. You've got Benzema, who's Benzema. For me, I'm not going to say it's an improvement this season. I'm just saying this guy has been, this is just Benzema. Do you know what I mean? We've been seeing this. Those are threats that obviously we can't ignore. Do you see us clean sheeting them at the Bridge?
Yeah, my prediction's actually 2-0. I think we can definitely keep the clean sheet. Now, it's not going to be easy, but if we take care of Benzema, that's half the job done. And I think for me, when I take a look at it, I say to myself, keep Benzema quiet, which is the back three's purpose. Vinicius needs watching, but I'm hoping Reece James is obviously going to play on that side. And you know, with that pivot in front, you got to close down Modric, and if you harass and harry and rush that midfield and you get amongst them, then like I said, you can dominate. And PSG did that for most of the time. So it's definitely possible to keep that clean sheet. But for me, I'm happy to take a 1-0 win. I can't lie. Any win tonight is literally a W. You know what I'm saying? And I'll take it because it's Real Madrid, and I don't know how the game's going to go. And I know Chelsea are not really known for taking chances. In fact, we're quite the opposite. We like to miss quite a few and leave the door open. So for that reason, I know that the game's never going to be done and dusted in one game, in one leg. So, and you can never count on us to finish our chances in one game, let alone first leg and second leg. So obviously the two goal cushion is great, but if we win 1-0, I'll be happy with that. And then I'm going to take each game individually as it comes. And maybe there'll be a suspensions, injuries. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? So if we can get the 1-0, I'm a happy man today. I'm not even going to look for that cushion because I just don't know. I've predicted 2-0, but I'll take 1-0.
I'm just worried about that 1-0 scoreline. But before I get into that, Karan, thank you for the super chat. Nervous, but I hope fans are loud and boisterous. You and I both, mate. You and I both. But look, we win this 1-0. Of course, the W is a good thing. But like what you're asking us to do at the Bernabeu effectively is at least score and restrict them to at least one goal. It's Real Madrid. I'm not saying it's impossible, but if we you see, now that I'm repeating this in my head, it just you are kind of right, because what I'm asking for is either a 2-0 or 3-1. And quite rightly, like you said, to rely on our attackers to be as clinical as that on the day, because we also got to remember that, you know, chances may come few and far between. This is a quality team that we're talking about. And sometimes when two teams of this quality face each other, there's not many chances. And this actually ties in for me with the world-class discussion is sometimes a striker in a game like this will have no opportunities all game. But that one moment that they have it and they put it away, it requires a level of concentration and quality about you to do that. So that's why I say that. But back to my point, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I just think 1-0 was still a bit of a squeaky bum time going into the Bernabeu, to tell you the truth. But Matisse, how much time do you have? I don't want to keep you over.
I could probably about 45. 45 I'm good for. 45.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to touch on the games yesterday briefly as well. Something a little different. So Manchester City, they ended up winning against I'm gonna get mixed up. They didn't play Benfica, they played Atletico Madrid.
Yeah,
against Atletico
I watched
Madrid.
that game,
Yeah. I seen quite a few people on Twitter saying, you know, Simeone anti-football, you know, Book of Satan chapter 6 tactics and all that. Yeah.
They're not wrong, bro. They're not wrong, because he set up with a 5-5. For real. Like, not a 4-4-2, which is what it said on the BT Sport graphic. A 5-5, bro. And I'm telling you, he would have went to a 7-3 if he could have as well. The brother is criminal. We should actually press charges, bro. Like, I'm genuinely disturbed with what I watched in that first half. Like, I must have yawned about 5 or 6 times in that game in the first half. Like, I've never done it before. I've never yawned that many times, and I couldn't even help it. I was proper just yawning. Second half, I had to throw on Liverpool and Benfica in the background on a different screen just to cover myself, because I was like, I'm not doing this on the watch along for the whole second half. But yeah, listen, Atletico have their way of playing. They're probably the only big quote-unquote team in Europe that plays in that manner, that defensively. Most teams have kind of adopted to 2022 and started to play a more expansive brand of football. They don't try that. You know, from the get-go, they're clearing it long with Oblak. They're hitting the channels. They're getting it into Felix, and Felix is trying to carry the ball past like 3 or 4 or 5 men, and there's no support. Griezmann's playing right wing back. Felix is tucked in at left wing back. It's long. It really is long, bro. Like, it's proper sufferable. And credit to Man City, really, because it was very difficult to break them down.
Very,
in
very
first half, Man City they didn't look like they were going to break them down at all. De Bruyne was spamming crosses. Sterling was the only person that looked like he had a little bit of imagination with the dribbling, because Mahrez was looking to cross as well. And this is where, and I hate to be this guy, because listen, City are top of the league and they're doing just fine without one. But in these kind of games, in the off game like this, you can see why they might need a striker, just so they can be a bit more direct. Back when they had like an Edin Dzeko, you know, Negredo, you know, all these guys, they still played great football. But if they had to slump it in the box, they could mix it up and they could go with those crosses, and there would be someone to head them in. And trying to cross the ball to Bernardo Silva is a waste of everybody's time.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was painful to watch, but credit for me, man, the match is Phil Foden, because he comes on and he switches up the game immediately. We talk about imagination, invention, passing ability, you know, eye through the needle. The guy literally finds De Bruyne, and it's a fantastic finish. And then even after that, he's playing outside the left foot passes into dangerous areas, and they're almost scoring again. So Foden was unbelievable. And it's one of the reasons why Southgate needs to be sacked because in the Euros, the brother didn't. How can you not unlock Foden? I don't understand. Foden and Sancho, you can't get them to perform. Like what? Grealish is coming off the bench for Kane. Let me not get into it. Innit? It's long.
Nah, everyone knows how I feel about Gareth Southgate on this channel, bruv. I can't stand him. We're not gonna do anything good with him as manager. But that was gonna actually be my next point. Phil Foden came on, changed the game, and you know, we've just got to accept that this kid is an absolute elite talent, and he's just got the world at his feet at this point. But I'm actually gonna throw the spanner in the works and ask the question.
Yeah.
Currently, obviously, they've got their whole careers ahead of them.
You're gonna say Pedri, innit?
Yeah. Who do you think? I was gonna ask you, who do you think currently, right now, is the better player?
It's tough. I think Pedri has more positional versatility. I think Pedri has played the 6, he's played the 8, he's played the 10. I've seen him move through different phases of midfield from beginning to end and be a very, very accomplished midfielder for such a young age. And I was so impressed last year where he played a ridiculous amount of minutes. I think this is the key with Pedri that I want to give him in his favor, is the fact that Pedri is playing an alarming amount of minutes. He played in the Olympics, I think. He played for Spain. He played for Barcelona every game. And Phil Foden does get the opportunity to rotate a little bit more because Man City and Pep like to chop and change, and they like to allow all of their players to get a little bit of game time and is sharing his caring type vibe. And that allows him potentially to perform at a higher level because he has got that rest and recuperation. Pedri ain't getting none of that. Pedri getting dragged up and down at 18 years old, scruffy. Man don't get no time to even brush his teeth in the morning. He's out on the pitch again. It's long. So
performing internationally as well.
Yeah. So right now, I'm going to give it slightly to Pedri because of that international factor that you just mentioned and the game time he's playing. But Foden is a baller.
1000%.
And I've been saying it because I remember when people kept making stupid comparisons, Foden with this youngster, with that youngster. Forget all that. Foden is a baller. Like he is very, very naturally gifted, very technical. And he's a little bit more of a 10 / a winger. He's like the David Silva replacement, isn't he? He's quality. So, you know, it's like Gerard Lampard, isn't it? That's what it will be in 10, 15 years' time. David Silva, Ozil. These level of baller, you just got to just love them, innit? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
These guys are just ballers, as simple as that. So, yeah, it's all mad. It's all mad. But
Dan J potentially triggering people, bruv. Do you think this is... They're saying money makes over both of them.
Yeah, see, I would disagree with that. I think, listen, Mason Mount's very, very, very good. But technically, he's not as strong as these two. I ain't really trying to hear anything.
And there's no shame in saying that.
There's no shame in saying that. Like, he's not as good a passer as these two. In my opinion, you know, he isn't as polished with his final ball as these two guys are. He's very talented. He's still an exceptional talent and a high potential talent. But he's, for me, technically not on the level of these two. One thing I will say about Mason, especially last year, is that he's very consistent. And he's also got a bigger... He's similar to Pedri, less of Foden in terms of his squad role, responsibility kind of thing. You know, he's got to play a lot of minutes. And he's also positionally very versatile. He's played in the 2 tucked in 10 positions. I know he's more of an 8. He's had to play wing. So Mason Mount kind of is more of the Pedri mold in terms of responsibility and positional versatility, but technically I still think those other two are a little bit ahead. What Mason does give you though is intelligence, and like we've been saying, he's got to start a big game because tactically he's so important. And I think for me, Mason is one of those players that does everything to a good level, kind of like Kai.
Yeah,
you know, we got a lot of these young guys that they do everything to a good level. You know, he gets involved with his tackles and interceptions. He's good with his duels. He's got a decent shooting technique. He can pass, you know, he's shown he can pass the ball when he needs to, but he just needs to do a bit more. A little bit of dribble here and there. Sometimes, bro, is that the thunder and lightning outside? The man's got to go outside after this show.
Whoa.
God has spoken. But yeah, like he's got a little bit of everything, you know. He's not made a couple man there, man. He's good on the right channel, skipping into the box. Like Mason's a very, very well-rounded footballer, in my opinion. I think he gets a lot of stick. This season, obviously, he's dropped off a little bit, but he just needs to just bring everything up even more notches, and I'm sure he'll do that. So yeah, they're all very gifted, but I would say technically the other guys are just slightly ahead.
No, definitely. And again, not a knock on Mason Mount. He can still reach that conversation. Still young enough to do that. So it's just a remain to be seen situation. So 1-0 win for Manchester City. That's a 1-0 they're definitely going to be happy with. Next leg is over at the Etihad. I think City are going to just repeat it again, score again. I think it'll be a 2-0 and they'll be through. But Liverpool, obviously, they had the easier tie out of the three English teams against Benfica. No disrespect to Benfica, but yeah, Liverpool just really, yeah, they just
dominated.
Yeah, that's it. They dominated them. Consolation goal from Darwin Núñez, who is actually on Manchester City's and quite a few other teams' radar. Actually, don't know too much about the kid. I'm not going to pretend like I've been watching him since he was at the youth academy. Don't know too much about him. We'll keep an eye on him. But I didn't really watch too much of that game, but I did see Luis Diaz getting on the goal sheet for the final goal for Liverpool. What a signing he's been. What an absolute signing he's been. And I think he's going to be making noise over the next few seasons coming. But the two English teams already look like they've put one foot into the semi-final. It looks like it's going to be another all-English final. In my opinion, I think it will be. Is this the time of English football having its dominance in Europe now? Because this does happen. You know, you had your Barcelona, you had your Real Madrid. The Spanish had their period. The Italians had their period with their AC Milan's winning it, their Inters winning it, and so on and so forth. Is this England's time to sort of be like that dominating force in Europe?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. England had their time prior. Do you remember we had a semi-final of Man United versus Arsenal and Chelsea versus Liverpool?
Yeah.
And I think we went through. United went through. I think that was the Moscow year. And English football was dominating those kind of years as well. We was reaching the latter stages. All four English teams were guaranteed to make quarters, and then you get minimum 2 or 3.
I'm just thinking of those squads. They were
ridiculous.
Chelsea's, United's. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Some great squads. So, you know, it is coming around to us again a little bit in this circle. I wouldn't rule out Bayern Munich just yet. I do think Liverpool will be favourites in that semi-final if they get through, which they probably are now through. I think Liverpool against Benfica was, for me, that draw that tie was done when the balls were taken out of the bowl. Fam, do you know what I'm saying? Like it was that easy. You know, Trent is an incredible playmaker from that right hand side. He was fizzing balls around the corner, setting up opportunities for Salah, for Diaz. Diaz is fitting like a glove.
The boy's special.
I thought Diaz was like 23. He's actually 25, so the man's ready to go. He
is. He's prime. He's good to go. You get me? But I was saying like Trent Alexander-Arnold, bruv. Like the boy's just special, fam.
Very. He's like an inverted fullback in a way. Like Pep would love him. Pep would absolutely love Trent because Trent's like. He's more of like a Philip Lahm or Kimmich. He wants to tuck inside and come narrow. He's not like your Kyle Walker, and Kyle Walker brings great balance because you need someone to get back on transition. So for as many people as Man City commit forward, Trent could be a disaster defensively. But like just his footballing ability in terms of his passing range, he would be one of our best playmakers. We would have him, Reece James, and I don't know, one other brother. I don't know who else wants to stand up and do that. Do you know what I'm saying? Like his passing ability is really, really, really good. And someone saying, imagine Trent and Cancelo in the same team. It would be mad. It would be ridiculous. It would be ridiculous. So yeah, he's so good, so good. Salah missing chances. He's kind of gone in a little rough patch, but I'm not really reading too much into it because as soon as people start questioning Salah's goal scoring ability, brother just starts banging in goals again, and it doesn't really matter because they've got Mane, they've got Diaz, they've got Firmino and Jota coming off the bench. They've got all these different forwards just kicking each other up the arse and just saying, "Listen, if you don't do it, I will." And when you see Salah and Mane come off, you think, "Oh, maybe they're getting weaker and they're going to get another goal because Diaz is
Jota."
Diaz is like, I want to score against my former rivals, Benfica. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's all mad. Konate had a brain fart. That was a mad error from him. Proper crazy. Maybe he said, I scored so I can do what I want, and then literally did.
I'm not going to read too much into that. I quite rate Konate. I think he's good. He is
good. He is good. They could have won by more goals. They could have slapped them 5-1. Like they did miss quite a few chances, but it's done. The whole tie is done, 100%.
Yeah. Let me make sure I say the name properly. Dain Shen Pillai. I hope I said that name right. Kante is crucial today, and front three must be clinical. Yeah, we're gonna get back into the game just before we leave. I haven't asked Matisse for his lineup or his score prediction either. So we are going to get into that. I just wanted to touch on the Champions League games that happened yesterday. But before then, there's actually one more thing that I wanted to bring up. It was to do with Todd Boehly. Now I know, Matisse, you told me like you're done with the whole protest, you're done with the whole ownership thing.
Yeah.
You did what you need to do, and me personally, I'm very grateful for what you did. I've said it several times on the channel. What you did should not go unnoticed. It was a massive thing that you done, and you can definitely sleep well if anything happens. But Todd Boehly apparently is going to have a meeting with Canners, aka Paul Canaville. Apparently it's this Friday. Yep, Fraser's saying it's this Friday. Now, do you feel it? For me, I feel like, yes, it's a positive, but it's almost too little too late. And the way the Ricketts family have been moving over the past 10 days or so in terms of, bringing on the fifth richest man in America and just really trying to work that angle with Bruce Buck and the board, I'm starting to become resigned to the fact that it's likely going to be them to take Chelsea Football Club. But do you see this as a silver lining on that cloud, this meeting?
I'm not getting my hopes up. For me, as I campaigned, people will be like, oh, buzzwords and all this. No, like, I meant every word I said when I was doing my tweets. Like, this is our chance. Don't expect another one. And that protest for me was the chance. It was the chance to do our very best as a fan base to wipe these lot out of the race, out of the shortlist. It had the coverage, it had the media, as we've seen, and the banner never made it into the ground, and it was confiscated. And that tells you all you need to know. Your voice will not be heard on this topic inside Stamford Bridge. So unless you're gonna come up with chants, you certainly ain't bringing any signs in, and you're not bringing no banners in. That's not happening, mate. So that's why I wanted us to cover ourselves with the thing outside. And yeah, I've still obviously been speaking on it because of news and whatnot, news outlets. But for me, even though, and people keep bringing it up, well, the Ricketts are not going to have a majority stakeholder or whatever. First of all, the racist comments. So what? I don't give a shit if they're majority or not. I don't want them at the club. I don't feel like people understand. Like the racism and the Islamophobia. We're not fucking with that. So if you give a shit about that, you're not going to change your mind just because they don't have a majority stake, so we can have some racist brothers upstairs in the higher. No, thank you. So my stance ain't going to change. I don't care if they got majority 5%. I don't give two shits. Griffin, on the other hand, I don't know if just because he's rich doesn't mean he's going to invest properly.
Exactly.
The Glazers are rich. They've invested hella peas to Manchester United, but they ain't made the right decisions. They've spent similar money to Man City, and look at the difference in the trophies. Yeah. At least I know from what I've heard from Todd, I can at least say, okay, this guy sounds like he knows what he's trying to do. He sounds like he's got a vision. And I'm hoping that he wins. Because I'm more than happy to go under his stewardship over the other guys.
100%.
And the Chicago Cubs, is only more worrying and more damning on the Ricketts in terms of if Griffin is going to use the money and he's going to take sporting advice from the guys who have sporting history, which is the Ricketts. From everything the clubs fans are saying and everything that we've seen in reports,
it makes no sense.
Not really trying to hear your advice. You don't sound like the greatest guys in terms of ownership. You don't sound like the Chicago Cubs fans aren't happy. So I'm not really trying to hear it. So from every single perspective outside of the stadium, which I think they sound like they have good plans for, but everybody needs to because it's the damn stadium. Like, you know what I mean? If you don't have good plans for that, you wouldn't even be in the shortlist at this point. Outside of the stadium on their side, I'm not really interested in anything else they have to offer. So that's just my stance. It ain't going to change. Hopefully, Canners has a good meeting with Todd. Yeah, I mean, look at PSG with the money they spent. Still can't wrap up a Champions League. It's a long day.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, listen, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I'm not holding my breath, to be honest.
Yeah, big up Canners as well, man. But if he is watching this, I'm glad the meeting's happening, and that's what I'll say about it. In terms of, yeah, you got it right, bruv. Like, just even coming away from some of their morals of the Ricketts family, because I've had quite a few people in the comments, they're saying stuff like, well, if you're going to worry about them, what about the other billionaires and this and that and the other? So, do you know what I said? Instead of going into that rabbit hole, because you can apply that to everything, you can apply it to social media, YouTube, Twitter, whatever, they're all linked to something nefarious, bro. That's the reality of life when you're dealing with that level of wealth. But even just the sporting reasons, which is what I'm trying to stick to, um, it just doesn't make no sense to go with them, because money is just a common denominator. If you're still in the running for the club at this point, everybody's got the money, because if you don't, you're not going to come to this point. It's really the emphasis on the best plan, and quite rightly, like you said, in the case of Todd Bowley, I like the way he dealt with it, because I felt he's been the most respectful with the fans.
Enough talking, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, here's the thing. Here's the thing is that he spoke.
Yeah.
Todd spoke, but he spoke what he needed to speak.
Yeah, man's not out here doing the Nick Candy thing.
Right. when he came out, it was business. It was straight to the point. He said, this is the point. This is what we got for Chelsea. This is what we want to do for Chelsea. This is our track record over at the Dodgers. We're going to try and build a relationship with the fans. I felt he was respectful. After that, he kept his mouth shut and obviously made it onto the shortlist. So he's been acting in a professional manner, and he's actually had the respect to address the fans and sort of give us some kind of, sense of calm to say, do you know what? Although the rest of the consortiums might not really want to deal with you lot, I'm here to let you know that the bid's here. I'm a different type of owner. I care about the fans. You can look at the Dodgers. If I get this club, there's nothing to worry about. We haven't really had that from anybody else. Yeah. So I find that quite respectful. Not gonna lie to you. But let's go back to the game. We didn't get your formation, nor did we get your score prediction. So this is the Chelsea versus Real Madrid game for later on. So those that are just joining. Also, if you've just jumped in, please smash up that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We are on the road to 10K, and we're gonna be relentless trying to chase that. You get me? So help us do that. But Matisse, let's start with your lineup.
My lineup for this game, it is quite easy to pick for me. Mendy in goal, back three of Azpilicueta, because I think Trevor's been quite mistake or error prone recently, and Christensen, I'm not sure where his head's at because it was kind of questioned in the presser. But Aspi for the experience next to Silva, Rudiger, Alonso and James at wing back, Jorginho and Kante in the middle, which is subject to change if depending on what Real Madrid do. I wouldn't mind Kova. Like if you have Kova, Kante, I'm good with that as well. And then the front three of Mason Mount, Pulisic and Kai. Ziyech unlucky, but yeah, he'll be a good impact.
You said Pulisic ahead of Ziyech. Yeah, that's what I said as well.
Yeah, I just think Pulisic on that left-hand side is key. I prefer Mason in the right channel when he's playing in the front three. I think he's more dangerous over there, and I think his link up with Reece is stronger. And I think Ziyech can start, but Ziyech can also come off the bench and make an impact. He's done it many a time, and I think if the game opens up a little bit or there's some tired legs, I think Ziyech can come on and take advantage of that. And Kai is a no-brainer. Like,
he must start. Kai must start. I mean, but you see, with the Mason Mount situation, my conundrum a bit is whether you put him on the left or the right. Now, I understand why you put him on the right. It makes sense. It's my concern down that left side. It's that Marcos Alonso factor that concerns me, brother. And he's just, with Mason, you're going to get that extra bit of protection. But then you're faced with the other conundrum of, do you want to force Pulisic out of his best position? And especially at the fact that he's come alive against Real Madrid several times, not even just for Chelsea, by the way, for Borussia Dortmund at the Bernabeu. I remember that one of them performances. He absolutely smashed it. So that's the conundrum there. But it's just really, now it just comes down to me about trusting that pivot and that sort of triangle on that left side to sort of help protect Marcos Alonso if he's bumped too far forward, and sort of help him and plug the holes in behind him. But I do agree that it would be a shame to nullify our best, what I would see as our best attacking threat down that left side, particularly for this game in Pulisic. So I have to agree with you sticking him on that left. Obviously, Kai Havertz in that false nine position. On that right side, it's got to be Mason Mount. My pivot, I'm going to go with Jorginho Kante. again, I would have been happy with any other combination, but just
Kante has to start for me. Like,
yeah, because when you look at what he done, especially at the latter stages in the Champions League, he just absolutely thrived. He smashed it. Now with him, it's a two-sided coin, because you see, for us to maintain them good performances from Kante, we've really, really, really got to be careful how we're going to use him in the league and the FA Cup as well, because we know Kante ain't going to be able to play, consistent games without picking up a niggle here and there. But I think we're at the stage of the season where we've got to start looking at Kante and making the decision. Do we start using him relentlessly from this point on to the end of the season, or do we use him sparingly for the Champions League and quite possibly the FA Cup as well? What's your thoughts on that?
I think all the time you got to look after Kante. I don't think there's any part of the season where you could just use him and abuse him, so to speak, every single match. For me, his best performances have come in the Champions League. That's where maybe there's a tempo difference as well. Those European teams, sometimes they're a bit shocked by the pace of the Premier League teams, and they get caught out a bit. And they also don't defend as deep in Europe, a lot of these teams, and they allow us to have a little bit more back and forth, a bit more transition, a little bit more space. And this is where Kante just comes alive, because now when you give Kante large spaces to occupy, this man turns into an absolute freak. Yeah. I think when it becomes a low block and, you need to pick those Foden passes, so to speak, you can see that Kante is not as needed potentially in that kind of game. More so just needed for the transitions and the breaks. But yeah, in Europe, in Champions League, with any team that wants to be semi-competitive with us, he's huge, because he does two people's work. Do you know what I mean? And I think for me, I'd be saving him. I'd be making sure that he is ready to go for the Champions League, like at his peak physical condition. And if you can then give him, half the Premier League games or 2/3 of them, maybe rest him in the FA Cup semi-final, who knows? But I don't know if Gallagher can play that. Maybe he can't. It'd be surprising if he does. Maybe, you can allow him to maybe miss that. I don't know. It's an FA Cup semi-final. You don't want to really miss Kante for that. But yeah, you got to pick and choose a bit, I think. Not every game, but yeah, Champions League, he has to play 100%.
100%. And before I ask you for your score prediction, the Rockwell, big up yourself. Guni, if you can tell me what Mason Mount's actual football talent is, I'll pay for rent through July. Well, that's very easy. What you have to do is you got to wheel it back about 10 minutes and listen to me and Matisse. That's the reason as to why I explained we need him in Real Madrid. So what you've now done is, Mr. Rockwell, is that you've documented yourself on YouTube, and your comment is there saying that you will pay for my rent from now through to July. If you don't mind, send me a DM. I will also reciprocate with my bank details. Every month, at the end of every month, you can drop the money in that account, and I'll be happy as Harry. You get me? So big up yourself, the Rockwell, for paying my rent up until July. Appreciate that.
My question is to these people that say this: how do you think Mason Mount has survived under 2 different managers in 3 or 4 different systems if he's got nothing to offer? Like, just think about that. Because, cool, we can scratch off Lampard, favoritism, English bias, whatever silliness we want to call it, right? Even though he had plenty of English players on the bench also, but we can scribble that all out. If you rate Thomas Tuchel and you think Thomas Tuchel is an intelligent manager, but you also think Mason Mount has 0 footballing ability, then something's not making any sense. And something ain't aligning, because either one of the people there ain't as smart as you think they are, or something's got to give. You're saying like Rashford, but I'm not really getting that vibe either. I'm not getting that vibe. I feel like because he's dropped off this season now, people are rewriting history. Like he didn't win Player of the Year last year. Like he didn't perform at Anfield against Real Madrid, against Porto.
Like he didn't play that
against
assist
Man City in the cup, in the semi-final of the FA Cup.
I seem to remember him playing that assist as well.
Like he didn't drag the team through that Christmas period when we were absolutely awful, and he was the only person giving a shit against Fulham before Lampard got sacked. We just rewrite history. Like, did we all forget the first? It's funny because people forget very quickly. I remember when Mason Mount was playing in the number 8 position at the start of last year for quite a few games, and people were like, this is brilliant. This is Mason Mount. This is where we need to see him. Number 8 position at home to Everton. Do we all forget these performances? Come on now. Like,
right.
You can say he's dropped off. I agree with you. I think this season he has dropped off overall. But to just pretend like you don't have nothing to offer, I don't know if you're watching the game.
I think
really
it's
don't. He's been inconsistent. I think he's been inconsistent, but you're not watching the game.
But the Rockwell, I promise you, if you watch the game today, you're going to see exactly what we're talking about. You're going to see how important he's going to be from a tactical perspective. But Matisse, I know we've run slightly over time, but before we go, make sure you give us your score predictions and what you've got coming up later on today.
Yeah, it's tough, but I'm gonna go 2-0 score prediction. I'm gonna stick with it. I hope we actually seal that deal. But it's gonna be tough, people, and like I said, I'll take a 1-0 happily, no problem.
I'm gonna go with 2. I'm gonna go with 2-0. I'm gonna be optimistic. Yesterday I said 2-1. Today I'm gonna go with 2-0. I'm gonna be optimistic, and if we do get 2-0, I think we're going to make it to the semi-final personally. So, yeah, both of our predictions 2-0. Matisse, what do you have coming up later on today? Let the people know.
Yeah, it's mad. The early kickoff show was uploaded there. That's on YouTube if you want to watch it. If you missed it this morning, it was very early in the morning there. That's on my channel now. I'm going to see if I can get the Premier League clip up for about 5, maybe 4:30. I don't know. We'll see. Because I did that today as well. We'll see if we can get a double upload before the game kicks off, and then the review will come out later. So could potentially get 3 uploads, but you're going to get minimum 2. So I'm trying to upload the media stuff on YouTube. But yeah, one of them's up, maybe the other one.
Perfect. Also, make sure you subscribe to Matisse. Details are down there in the descriptions. All of his social medias, as are mine. As for Man Knows Football, we do have the live stream of the Chelsea versus Real Madrid game coming up later. Troops will be joining me for the live stream, so that is going to be mega tense with this guy. Just, you know how Troops is. I ain't got to really explain to you lot. He's got to motor mouth his whole way through this game and try and rattle me. So make sure you join us. That will be a lot of fun for you lot. But aside from that, get me up the Chelsea, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, please make sure you stay safe. And before you leave, smash up that like button as well. Make sure you smash that like button. Right now, I can see 260 people in the building from the StreamYard side. So I'll be disappointed if we don't get at least 200 likes. And also hit that subscribe button. We're on the way to 10K, and we will make it happen thanks to you lot. But up the Chelsea. See you lot later for the live stream, and bless.